this earnings call. To take us through the Q2 FY22 results and to answer our questions, we have with us Mr. Abhishek Bansal, Chief Financial Officer of Just Dial. Unfortunately, Mr. VSS Mani, founder, is not able to join due to some unavoidable circumstances. So I will now hand over the call to Abhishek for his opening remarks and presentation. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Siddharth. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Just Dial's earnings call for second quarter of fiscal 22. Before we discuss quarterly results, I shall share a quick update on our strategic partnership with Reliance Group. Reliance Retail Ventures Limited, RRVL, has recently acquired controlling stake in Just Dial via multiple transactions for a total consideration of about 5,719 crores. They have infused 2,165 crores into the company via preferential allotment, acquired stake from promoters under a share purchase agreement, and acquired further 26% stake via open offer from public shareholders. Consequently, RRVL currently holds about 67% stake in the company, and overall promoter group shareholding stands at 77.7%. Coming to quarterly results, this quarter saw impact in top line due to decline in collections that we witnessed over past quarters, especially the last quarter, 1Q FY22, which saw impact of COVID second wave. Our operating revenue for the quarter stood at about 156 crores, which declined 6.9% sequentially. Our deferred revenue stood at 334.2 crores, which was up 8.7% sequentially due to a sequential recovery in our collections. However, at this point of time, our monetization is still about 25% below pre-pandemic levels. But with COVID impact receding and SME business recovery likely to pick up pace, we believe our monetization too should pick up in coming months. Active paid campaigns stood at about 431,000 at the end of the quarter. On operating expenses, employee expenses saw about 11.9% YOY increase. Part of it is due to increments that we rolled out this year, which had not been done last year. Apart from that, we have started hiring talent across sales, product, technology, and content, our core functions, to build strong teams as we plan for next leg of growth of JD. Other expenses had approximately 2 crores of advertising spend for the quarter. Ad spend should resume aggressively in few months as we roll out some of our pipeline products. Overall, adjusted EBITDA margin stood at 13.3% for the quarter. Other income stood at 35.6 crores and overall PAT stood at about 32.9 crores, witnessing a decline of about 30.5% on a year-on-year basis. Cash and investments stood at 3,773 crores as on 30th September, post 2165 crores of preferential issue. Coming to operational highlights, traffic recovered well sequentially and stood at about 150 million unique users for the quarter. Most of the traffic came organically. On strength of database, total listings now stand at about 31 million. We are working on several initiatives to augment our content, which will not only strengthen discovery of products and services on the platform, at the same time, a transactional layer shall be enabled across various categories. With this brief update, we shall now open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who would like to ask a question, please press star and 1 at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Abhishek Bhandari from Macquarie. Please go ahead.
Hi Abhishek, hope you're doing well. I had 3 questions, Abhishek. First, you mentioned your monetization is running 25% below pre-COVID level. So if you could guide us into by what time frame do you expect it to come back to a normal level, that will be helpful. Second is, on your advertisement spend, while you had withdrawn from the second leg of IPL, but what would be the budgeted expenses for ads for the remaining quarters of this year? And thirdly, now that the transaction is closed, and I think we're almost close to a month after the closure of the transaction and all the money is coming in, if you could update us about the reconstitution of board, what is the strategy refresh the company is taking, and what will be the plan of aggressively launching some of your pipeline products, including your JD Mart and Omni. That will be helpful. Thank you, Abhishek.
Okay, Abhishek. So on your first question on monetization, so as far as time frame is concerned, see, a good percentage of our revenue comes from B2C service-oriented categories, and SMEs in these categories have been most impacted. But the way vaccination is panning out, the way overall economy is recovering, we believe that from here on, this particular 25% gap that we have versus pre-pandemic levels, I think in say next about 3 to 4 months likely it should get bridged. We are already seeing signs of our sales team getting better traction with customers. So compared to first wave where recovery was gradual, I think post second wave, especially in coming few months, we should be able to bridge this particular gap. On advertising spends, so advertising spends in this particular quarter, they were negligible at about 2 crores. The overall thought process is that instead of looking just at an annual basis, we are going to calibrate ad spends in line with the product rollout and other initiatives that we shall be undertaking going forward. For this particular year, I think ad spend should resume aggressively in fourth quarter of this year. So we have spent about 55 odd crores during the first half. So second half, as and when we see timelines of our products, etc., we will decide to advertise during the fourth quarter. So it will be a mix of, again, digital versus mass media. On your question around reconstitution of board, so RRVL has taken control of the company, including the board, with effect from 1st September. So the board has already been reconstituted. So at this point of time, we have total 11 directors on board, out of which 6 have been recently appointed. 5 are non-independent and 1 independent director. So the transaction concluded very recently, including the open offer. We are closely working with RRVL leadership team and our newly inducted board members on firming up our strategy. We are sort of reevaluating all aspects of our business. There are several exciting initiatives in pipeline. As and when we decide on how would we allocate our resources for each of these initiatives, which initiatives will be prioritized, etc., you will get to hear more details from us. So overall, the thought process is that JD has created a great asset in terms of 31 million listings, SME relationships being in place, a good network of return suite being present. How can we leverage all these in light of this particular partnership to take JD to the next level? So as and when we firm up our plans, which should be say very shortly over the next few weeks, we would be communicating our roadmap going forward.
Thank you, Abhishek. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivek Anand S. from Ambit. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. So start with the bookkeeping question. Could you give us the split of revenue by the geographies, and secondly, similar split for campaign? My second question is on the product pipeline that you have. So would you prioritize promoting JD Mart, or would you want to launch multiple new products like you have discussed in your annual report, the JD Expert, the self-serve model for SMEs? How are you thinking about these new launches? Will they happen gradually, or will they happen in a flurry in the fourth quarter as you mentioned that ANP will resume then? Thank you.
So Vivek, firstly on revenue split, so tier 2, tier 3 cities contributed about 56% by campaigns and about 35% to overall revenues. On your second question around product pipelines, so definitely JD Mart is one of the key initiatives we have. We are currently thinking of seeing that how scope of JD Mart can even be expanded. So that is one thing that we are working on. Apart from that, on the B2C category side, the overall thought process is that while Just Dial has been a search destination, how can we take search to the more deeper engagement level in terms of either qualified leads in certain categories or in terms of enabling transactions across certain categories. We would be putting in dedicated teams for handling each of these categories. So as and when those particular products keep getting ready, they will get rolled out. Obviously, since there are so many categories, we will have to prioritize that, okay, which are the key 3-4 initiatives that we aggressively want to go after, and which are some of the other initiatives which will be rolled out over a period of time.
Okay, thanks. A couple of other questions which I did not ask because it was getting too lengthy. So one of them is the JD app that is currently there. Has there been any discussion between your company and Jio platforms to integrate the JD app as far as the as part of the My Jio app or make it part of some super app that Reliance might be planning? So that's one. And secondly, historically you have been very, very consistent in paying out dividends and returning cash. With the new board coming in, has that been discussed, and is there any difference in the approach towards returning cash that Just Dial will now do, or should we continue expecting dividends from the company? Thank you.
Okay, firstly on JD app being integrated, see, there has not been any specific discussion around, okay, whether JD app will be integrated with any Jio platform or any RRVL retail platform. The key discussions are around, okay, what can JD leverage from strengths that the RRVL or RIL group brings in? What can they leverage out of the SME relationship and the asset that we have created? So there are thoughts being put around those particular items, and whether that would ultimately require any integration, etc., that we'll see. On your question around dividend or return of capital, so you're right. I mean, before this particular transaction, post IPO, we had returned about 700 crores back to shareholders. At this point of time, the thought process is that we operate in a very sort of disruptive sector, and instead of thinking about, okay, how much cash should be returned, etc., clearly the thought in the leadership team's mind is that how can we grow JD to the next level? Now that would require investments across various items. First of all, talent. Second, augmenting our content. Third could be for any of the verticals that we may want to go deeper. There could be investments pertaining to fulfillment of services, etc. Then fourth, obviously, is spends towards promoting or advertising those products. So firstly, capital would be allocated to all these. And then over a period of time, once we see that there is a sustainable growth path for JD 2.0, thereafter we shall think of, okay, how efficiently to return cash back to shareholders. So at this point of time, in a nutshell, I would say that thoughts are not at all on what should be mode of returning of cash, etc. The complete thought process is on, okay, what does JD need to do to get to the next leg of growth?
Understood. Thank you, Abhishek, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone who would like to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Ruchi Burde from BOB Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
Hi, Abhishek. I mean, speaking on the previous question, there's a change in, you sounded there's a change in the payout policy at JD. Similarly, would you say that now with the growth chase, profitability is now a secondary, I would say, target or thought process? JD would like to prioritize growth at this point of time. Would that be, I would say, good interpretation of current state of strategy?
So my assessment so far, this is interaction with the RRVL team, is that both JD and RRVL have a very similar thought process that any business that we run should have long-term unit economics, should have long-term profitability. So there might be investments that might be done in short term to bring that particular initiative to a particular scale, but that particular business should not be run with the thought process that we spend 100 to earn 80 rupees. So that particular DNA which JD has followed from day one, that will definitely be in place. But yes, we would no longer be any averse to making investments in short to medium term to make our initiatives a success.
Got it. And secondly, I mean, we heard you on the board level changes. Has there been any talent or resources changes on the operational level or the executive team level?
So we have been inducting talent. So at senior leadership roles, the number of people we have hired in, say, last 6 to 9 months is probably far higher versus what we would have done in, say, last 4 to 5 years. So we are inducting senior developers in our tech product teams. Then even on the marketing side, we have dedicated CMO in place with dedicated teams. JD Mart, there is a 150-160 member team that is already in place. At the same time, for all other initiatives, the thought process is to have dedicated heads for each of these initiatives. So yes, there is a significant investment that is happening in on the talent side. Similarly, on content, which is one of the very key areas, there are certain 4 or 5 good senior hires that are expected to join us in the next couple of months.
Understood. My next question is regarding our paid campaigns. So, is there any skew, geographic skew towards where these are, where we are losing or we lost a paying customer, where we need to focus more to get them back, or these are across the board?
So if I compare paid campaigns versus peak levels of pre-COVID, so definitely the drop is higher in tier 1 cities compared to tier 2, tier 3 cities. But one of the reasons obviously is also that tier 1 tends to have a higher ticket size. So when B2C services business of SMEs got impacted, so high ticket size businesses tend to curtail their spends first. But with economy coming back on track, I think we should be able to cover our lost ground even in tier 1 cities. Plus, as I mentioned, some of the initiatives would be around adding a transactional layer in certain categories where it may not necessarily be about chasing more number of customers. It could be about having certain few quality vendors fulfilling all the orders in those particular categories, and the overall revenue would be maximized from those few vendors itself.
Understood. That's it from me. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ameya Karambalkar from Kotak Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you so much for the opportunity. A couple of questions from my side. Firstly, if you could help us with how you're looking at sequential recovery in the active paid campaigns panning out, and by when could it go back to the pre-pandemic levels? And from a medium-term perspective, is there any kind of target or aspiration that you have for the number of paid campaigns? That's the first question. And the second is, as you look to aggressively invest in, tech and sales employees, could we see a material increase in the employee expenses going ahead? Thank you.
So on your first question regarding sequential recovery in paid campaigns, so last quarter paid campaign had a degrowth. One of the key reasons there was that due to COVID second wave impact, we could not have our feet on street aggressively meet customers. As a result of that, we focused on more of upfront payment contracts versus monthly payment contracts. Typically, historically, our average 30% of the customers sign up on monthly payment basis, but in last quarter, that was only around 9 to 10%. Now, what that does is that if you are asking a customer to pay, say, 22,000 rupees upfront versus signing up on a 2,000 rupee per month payment plan, there is a drop in number of customers that tend to sign up. Having said that, since you get upfront money, that is what gets reflected as higher deferred revenue. So despite dropping campaigns, you see sequential increase in deferred revenue. From this particular month onwards, now since all employees are working from office, are able to report to field, etc., we are going back to our strategy of aggressively signing up customers, be it on affordable monthly payment plans. So I personally see that recovery in paid campaigns should accelerate from here on. So before even say revenue goes back to pre-pandemic levels, I am hopeful that campaigns should see recovery much faster. On your second question regarding investments in tech and corresponding increase in employee expenses, see a good chunk of our employee expenses is towards sales related employees. On the tech side, while we are making investments, we'll have to see how that pans out. But we are clear that in case investment in tech product content results in increase in employee expenses for a certain period of time, so be it. As I said, that we operate in a very disruptive sector, so there is no point just conserving cash in bank with the thought process that employee expenses should not go up materially, etc. So the first thought process is that, okay, make investments whatever are needed, and over a period of time, unit economics of those particular verticals will automatically take care of revenues, profitability, free cash flows, etc.
Thanks. That's helpful. Just one follow-up. If you could give some qualitative or quantitative color on how the traction on JD Mart panned out this quarter, that would be helpful. Thanks.
So JD Mart, as I said, that on the teams front, we already have a team of about 150 odd employees in place. For B2B related categories, we always used to get a certain percentage of our traffic coming to JD platforms. Since JD has such a strong brand recall, even today, JD results tend to get far more prominence versus JD Mart results. So JD's brand equity obviously is overpowering. I think it will take a few quarters. Ultimately, the thought process is that with this dedicated platform in place, with the products being available on the platform, be it via JD or JD Mart, the number of users coming to our platform should substantially increase. So we are seeing month-on-month increase in that. I think after a period of time, once we have a certain critical mass in terms of traffic, we will be able to share those metrics separately as well.
Thanks. That's all from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Swapnil from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Hey, hi, Abhishek. Just one question on JD Mart platform again. So can you just help us understand what is the monetization status of this? Like, have you started onboarding clients who pay for these services, JD Mart services, or you are still in the running the trial campaigns that you are doing? Also, how many storefronts, B2B storefronts do you have now? You used to have around 100,000 storefronts earlier pre-pandemic. How many do we have now? and how many are paid basically in that? And any update on content, the content that we were supposed to upload and make visible for the buyers. So those kind of metrics, if you can just share some detail on those. Thanks.
So JD Mart monetization, as I said, that right now we are in the process of primarily training the team. So we have put this particular team in last about 30 to 40 days itself. Our teams have already started reaching out to customers in these particular categories, primarily say manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers. In the first phase, trying to explain them importance of being present online, etc. So I think in next few months, monetization should start picking up. On B2B content side, so at this point of time, we have almost 1 million listings with reasonably rich catalogs. So out of the total universe of about 6.5 to 7 million businesses, which are B2B in nature, in about 1.1 million cases, we do have reasonably rich catalogs on the platform. As far as paid customers are concerned, paid customers on regular JD platform for B2B categories, so they form approximately about 20% of our paid campaigns. So approximately 85,000 would be existing paid campaigns for B2B related categories.
Right. So the understanding is like JD Mart specific B2B has not started. So there's no monetization there, no paid suppliers there right now, as of now.
So paid suppliers of B2B segment which were present on Just Dial, they are getting priority visibility on JD Mart as well. So if you are a ball bearing manufacturer and you are paying to JD, in that case, when you search for ball bearings on JD Mart, this particular paid customer's products will rank on top. Ultimately, from a SME's perspective, they do not care much whether they are getting a lead or visibility from JD or JD Mart. So from that particular perspective, those particular customers are getting priority on JD Mart also. But the key is that how do we quickly get incremental revenues from this particular initiative? That incremental revenues should start flowing in coming months with the new dedicated team being put in place.
Right. And any color on the transactions then that you plan to initiate for some of the categories? So which are these target categories?
From the transaction side, one is like on the JD Mart platform itself, we would want transactions to ultimately happen. Then JD Experts, which is the on-demand home services, that is another category. Effectively, today, the way user behavior is changing, that everyone wants to do activities at the click of a button. There are many categories which can ultimately become transaction enabled. For us, the key question will be that whether how much scale can that particular category ultimately get. So whichever categories we believe have significant scale that can happen in coming years, those we will try to shift towards transactional business model.
Okay. And will you also enable logistics services for this on your own or like?
So the way we see logistics is that in today's era, logistics is gradually becoming commoditized. So you have well-established players for hyperlocal, intracity, intercity. To start with, we would tie up with some of these particular players for logistics services. Having said that, in case user experience warrants us to get deeper into logistics services as well, we could look at that option also. But as I see, there are multiple players out there which at competitive rates are willing to fulfill any product deliveries, etc. So the first thought process will be to have these third parties fulfill these particular orders. That will also help us have faster time to market for our initiatives.
All right. Thanks for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question from the line of Shivangi Agarwal from Lakewater Advisors. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. I had two questions.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Agarwal. We cannot hear you very well. Can you please speak a bit louder or come closer to the phone?
Can you hear me now?
Better, but if you can speak a bit louder, it will be great. Thank you.
Thank you for taking my question. I have two questions for you for today. My first question being, could you please shed some light on the current status of the copyright infringement dispute of Just Dial with IndiaMart? And my second question is that the transactional services which you just spoke about in the previous question, do you have a roadmap created for it for the future? Thank you.
So on the first question regarding current status, so there are two parallel suits that are running, and those particular suits are ongoing. There has not been any material progress in either of the two litigations. Could you please repeat your second question regarding transactions?
So the second question which I asked was the transactional revenue which you spoke about in the previous question, that a company is planning to take on revenue on the basis of transactions on the JD Mart platform. So, like, do you have a roadmap planned for it as to how it's going to happen in the future?
So on transactional revenue, the thought process is that JD Mart ultimately will have three sets of revenue streams. One will be the subscription revenue. Basically, SMEs getting visibility through the platform and they are paying for it. It could be either tenure-based subscriptions or it could be pay-for-performance-based plans. Second stream of revenue would be certain percentage commission-basis revenue. So at this point of time, we believe that JD Mart, especially on B2B categories, will to a great extent be lead generation based, but ultimately similar to the experience that China has seen with Alibaba, there could be a good amount of transactions also that can start flowing in. So transactional revenue will result in commission revenues. And the third revenue stream we want to have is certain revenues for add-on services. So for example, we are enabling logistics on the platform. So even if a transaction is not placed via JD Mart and there is an SME who wants to ship their offline order via selecting logistics players on our platform, they could use that particular service. The reason for that particular SME to come to our platform to choose a logistics service would primarily be they get quotations across various logistics service providers, so they possibly would get better rates as per their requirements. So the first and the third streams, the first subscription revenues we are getting currently also as part of Just Dial. Endeavor is to grow those. And on the transaction bit, there is work going on in terms of not just enabling static digital catalogs, but also having vendors put in real-time prices, inventory status, etc. So once those items are in place, that is when we should see traction on transactional revenue streams for JD Mart.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Gaurav Rateria from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for taking my question. I have a couple of questions. I'll go one by one. So firstly, is there any fundamental difference in the behavior of users coming via app or versus coming via mobile browser in terms of number of searches per day or per month? And does it even really matter from a monetization perspective because of stickiness?
So on app versus browser behavior, so far the approach that we had taken was that we are sort of platform agnostic in terms of either user coming via app or whether user comes via a browser. Having said that, any user who holds your particular app on their device, they are likely to be more sticky users slightly more frequent users. So long term, yes, we would want to have our app installed in as many phones. But as I said, that considering a good chunk of internet surfing happens via default browsers of devices, it is super important to have a browser experience being very similar to a app experience.
What would be the cost of driving an app download right now?
See, cost of driving an app download can vary substantially. So, you can get an app download for even 20 rupees. You can get an app download for 200 rupees. It is all about quality of users. So, for example, in case you do any particular advertising campaign on any, say, gaming site, right? So maybe you will get very low quality installs as far as your service is concerned. Any other gaming app might find that particular user to be a high quality user. So there is no hard and fast rule to say that, okay, you can get app downloads at X rupees. It all depends on, once you get an app download, how engaged that particular user would be.
Got it. Secondly, my understanding is that the churn for SMEs increased quite a bit during the pandemic. Is it fair to say that the churn might have come down and now the gross addition of paid campaign has slowed because of lesser effort on sales and marketing, which now will pick up and that will lead to incremental paid campaigns? Any color of the churn rate, what it used to be pre-pandemic, what it peaked at during the pandemic time and what it has come down to now?
So there, my assessment is that while churn in SME's business might have increased, but ultimately a particular SME, a particular entrepreneur, they would go back to doing some or the other business itself. So during these particular times of, say, COVID, etc., yes, they might have curtailed their spends on a platform such as Just Dial, which is what impacted our campaign. But going forward, all of those particular SMEs would come back doing some or the other business, possibly similar to what they were doing earlier. And as and when that happens, that should help us see recovery both in our paid campaigns as well as our revenues.
Okay. And last question is on, you specifically mentioned about investments on content, fulfillment. So it would be great if you could elaborate a bit on what exactly those investments would be around content and fulfillment. And also on the technology side, right now, what would be our spend on technology as percentage of revenues, and with the beefing up of teams around technology and other things, what the technology spend will look like in the coming years? Thank you.
See, on content side, the thought process is that very ideally we want to have digital catalogs enabled for all businesses on JD. So even if it's a salon out there, I want that I should be able to tell you that this particular salon provides which all services and at what particular price point. So address, photos, videos, the basic details that in any case are already available on the platform. The real value add to the user would be if I can tell the pricing about the products and services. So when we talk about investments in content, they are primarily towards getting even more quality content. For example, in a vertical such as real estate, so far we have agents listed on the platform. But the need of the hour is that we should be able to showcase what are the various properties that are available for renting or buying, selling. Similar would be the behavior in several other categories as well. And the next step to having a good user experience is fulfillment should be proper. So if you have actually ordered a pest control via Just Dial, so you are ultimately putting your trust on Just Dial. So we should be able to ensure that whoever JD's trusted vendor is fulfilling that service, that transaction should get fulfilled from end to end. Now that would obviously require investments in terms of training those particular vendors or having a team in place to ensure that users get a good experience, etc., etc. Regarding your question on tech-related investments, so tech-related investments broadly, two types of investments. One is the tech team, developers, product-related teams that we have. So we at this point of time have about 340, 350 engineers. We are in the process of aggressively beefing up this particular team. Second set of expenses are tech infrastructure-related expenses. I'll have to see on exact numbers on how much we spend. But as I said that I think whatever spends that we need to do, especially on the talent side, we are already in the process of making those particular investments.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pranav Kshatriya from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for taking my questions. I have a couple of questions. Firstly, I'm trying to understand, the engagement on JD Mart platform. Since you mentioned that because JD itself is a very strong brand, a lot of searches are directed to it. I vaguely remember you talking about, search optimization being complete for JD Mart and hence, traffic going to it in the last quarter. So in that context, how since the launch of JD, how the B2B traffic on JD Mart standalone plus B2B traffic on Just Dial has moved. If you can share some color on that. And my second question is, how should one see the advertisement on, advertising spend for Just Dial and JD Mart panning out? I guess this quarter there was some increase in other costs, possibly due to the paid traffic coming back to the platform. That's why there was increase in traffic as well. But going forward, how should we see this? And will JD Mart will also get its share of paid traffic and hence higher traffic going forward? Thank you.
So Pranav, firstly on ad spends were about 2 crores for the quarter. Out of about 150 million unique users that we had, only about 3-4%, 5-6 million users were acquired via paid traffic. So by and large, majority of the traffic came organically itself. In terms of engagement on JD Mart related statistics, so about 10.5 million JD Mart pages have been already indexed, and endeavor is to overall maximize traffic that is coming to JD and JD Mart for B2B related categories. We are also in the process of likely enabling some of JD Mart related content on JD as well, so that users coming to JD also get a better experience for these categories. In recent months, say last few quarters, obviously there have been other factors as well, such as impact of COVID, etc. In next, say 3 to 4 months, we should be in a better position to assess that how overall traffic is faring versus possibly pre-pandemic levels for these categories.
Okay. And in the 2 crore where that was spent, was it some portion of that directed towards JD Mart traffic acquisition?
Okay, so see, when we run campaigns for, say, Just Dial, when we used to do in the past as well, so 2 strategies were adopted. One was, going after top 200, 300, 500 categories which were fetching JD revenue. Second was blanket campaign across all pages of Just Dial. In both these strategies, B2B pages were also getting covered. So whenever we advertise, it is not specifically that, whether part of 2 crore is going towards JD Mart related keywords or not. It is more to do with, at this point of time, we don't do that much segregation of B2C versus B2B. However, going forward, we will have digital spends also targeted specifically towards B2B related manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers.
Okay. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sohas Sonal Minhas from Precision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Sonal. Hi, Abhishek. I have two questions. The first one was around the investments people have been making in the senior management over the last 1 year, and this is pre-acquisition by Reliance. So I just want to know, forget the acquisition, what were the near-term 1 year, 2 year milestones the company had to hit by the senior hiring or let's say a change in strategy there? You can quantify that, let's say, through a sustainable top-line growth, which the management was targeting over the next 1-2 years, that is basically to get an understanding of what the organic rate of growth of business would have been irrespective of the.
So Kunal, on the business, the way we are looking at it is that, okay, there is a core search business that we have, which should continue to flourish in, say, probably 80-90% of the categories, since those categories are relatively infrequent in nature, and there will never be a possibly vertical competition in those particular categories, because on a standalone basis, it doesn't make sense to do a vertical in those categories.
Okay.
And second would be certain categories where it is necessary to go deeper, either in terms of content or in terms of fulfillment via better quality inquiries or via transactions. So the thought process is that get core business, first of all, to come back to pre-pandemic levels, and thereafter try to grow it sustainably, at least on a 15 to 20% basis. Because the way we are still under-penetrated, that should be possible. Now, that would also require certain augmentation in terms of getting better content. No longer can you just rely on address, photos, videos. You need to have catalogs of businesses. In certain categories, such as, say, real estate, have content in terms of product or service type of listings. So all those changes ultimately, a sort of category-specific approach should help us grow that core business at a reasonable sort of run rate. And then the newer initiatives, which would be sort of adding on top of these revenues from scratch, as I said, that it will, some of those discussions are already on that, which are the kind of verticals we want to prioritize. JD Mart is already launched. JD Expert, we are already piloting in a couple of cities with 1 or 2 categories. So as and when we have more clarity on or firmer plans on, okay, which are the verticals we are targeting, we would be able to share milestones around the same.
Got it. I understand that. So that answers the first part. Second question around, I don't know if you could share, but basically, like, what are the incentives for the current management to stay put going ahead, and or is that something which is work in progress for the Reliance management to look into and see whether the leadership team really continues and there's not too much churn?
So the existing team, they have been reasonably well incentivized through lucrative ESOP plans, which have vesting in future years. Very importantly, we share a slide on our leadership or the management team, and most of the folks who have been listed there have been with us for at least 15-20 years. So from that particular perspective, I don't think so there should be any concern around churn in top management. At the same time, like in the past also, our particular incentives in terms of either ESOPs or other variables have been reasonably well planned. That will be the same case going forward as well.
Understand. If I could just squeeze in a third question, is the plan like going ahead to keep this entity as a listed entity, as an independent listed entity, or if you can't answer that right now, maybe it's okay, but just asking to get this out of the way.
Yes, so to the best of my knowledge, yes, it will continue to operate as a listed independent entity.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Abhishek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhijit Jain from Citigroup. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Hi, Abhishek. Just 3 questions from my side. Of the 85,000 paid B2B campaigns that you highlighted, could you give a broad mix of how much of this would be in, services-oriented accounts and how much of it would be goods-oriented accounts?
So within that split, I think broadly should be around 50-50. 50% of those should be service-oriented and another 45-50% should be products-oriented.
Got it. And what is your current share of, overall top line, I would ask, which is coming from large corporate or organized corporate kind of customers? I know that you used to do business with a budget hotel operator, right? So I'm just trying to get a sense of what part of your business is coming from that segment still.
So I have not honestly looked at most recent numbers, but pre-pandemic when we were doing about 950 odd crores. So at that time, about 70 to 80 crores used to be large corporates, so to say. Corporates or businesses having a pan-India presence through multiple outlets.
Got it. Yeah, thanks. And one final question from my side. I know that in 1Q, obviously most of your ad budget would have been obviously on the IPL side. But in a more steady state scenario, how do you look at your ad budget allocation between digital and offline? And what is the broad split look like from a going forward perspective?
So in our experience, like mass media advertising tends to be expensive but lumpy. So the way typically it works is that you do a 4 to 6 weeks mass media campaign and follow it up with a sustainable digital campaign. So maybe in terms of value, both might consume 50% of your advertising budget, but large in terms of tenure, maybe 70-80% times you might be dominating digital advertising versus mass media. So like pre-pandemic, we used to advertise in multiplexes. So that again is a non-digital property, but a good property to get savvy mobile users. So it will be a combination of all those that we will evaluate. As I said that we have a dedicated marketing team in place, which is already working on creatives and digital related items so that we optimize whatever spends we'll do for our future product rollouts.
Got it. Thanks, Abhishek. And Abhishek, just 2 other questions. One is, so you said, and obviously we covered this, that 85,000 is your paid campaigns. On the traffic side of the total traffic, how much of the traffic goes to B2B kind of search results out of the 150 million?
So pre-pandemic, B2B used to contribute about 16-17% of the traffic. So revenue contribution of B2B used to be about 20%. On the traffic side, it used to be a bit lower at about 16-17%. I presume similar should be the behavior now as well.
Got it. No. Yeah, and one final question from my side. Among the categories that you currently have on the business, which are the top ones you would name where you don't have any vertical player competing with you right now? Either in B2B or in B2C, in any of those segments.
See, ultimately, while there might be a vertical player or not, I mean, business models can be different. For example, in pest control services, maybe in certain urban cities, in certain pockets, you might have a vertical player. But at the same time, there might be a huge traffic that might be coming to look for a regular pest control service provider. house painting. So there might be a vertical player who might also be doing lead generation as what we are doing. So I don't think so it would be right to segregate categories to say that, okay, in these there is a vertical player, in these there is not a vertical player. The right way to look at it would be that, okay, in this category, what is the business model that company should have? Should it just be search-based? Should it be search plus transaction? And that is how we should look at category-wise.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I think that completes my question. Yeah, sorry, Abhishek, just one final question from my side. I know you disclose the number of app downloads every month, every quarter. Would you have a sense of what is your MAU metric look like on the app side?
So I will have to come back to you on this. I don't have that number ready with me.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, those are my questions, Abhishek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Garima Mishra from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead. Garima Mishra from Kotak Securities, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead with your question. May we request you to unmute yourself from your mobile and go ahead, please. There seems to be no response in this line, so I've muted the line. A reminder to all the participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press star followed by 1. Anyone who would like to ask a question, please press star followed by 1. As there are no further questions from the participants, I now hand the conference over to Mr. Abhishek Bansal for closing comments.
Thank you everyone
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, because we've got one question in queue now. Would you like to take that and then we close?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Alroy Lobo from Kotak Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. The first question is on the fact that you want to remain listed. The overall promoter holding now is 77.7%. So is there going to be a sell-off of 2.7%, or will there be a reclassification of the promoter in a group?
So this is my current understanding. We will have to bring down promoter shareholding to 75%. There could be some bit of dilution through ESOP related dilution that might happen over a period of next 1 year. But yes, remaining will have to be brought down. And there is unlikely to be any...
There's not going to be a reclassification of promoter. There will be a sell-off with the, in case it doesn't come down to 75%, there would have to be a sell of those balance shares.
So among the promoter group, primarily it is RRVL and Mr. VSS Money, and there are few other erstwhile promoters. There could be some reclassification of other erstwhile promoters. However, stake held by them is not significant.
Okay. Second is on your ad productivity. You had a big spend in the last quarter on IPL. How do you measure ad productivity? For example, the 50 crores of ad spend that you did last quarter, how do you measure whether it has been really effective, in growing your business?
See, so advertising, in our case, probably since that was a one high ticket expense, that is why we are discussing it. But otherwise, whenever you do a, say, 200, 300 crore of advertising spend in the entire year, maybe there is some 30, 40, 50% which did not yield the desired results, but it is difficult to pinpoint the same. So since we did this particular IPL spends today, whenever my sales team gets in touch with any B2B manufacturer distributor and gives a reference of those particular ads, there is a recall that happens. So that helps in starting that particular conversation much faster. Some of these intangible benefits cannot be directly quantified. So the way any ad spends should be evaluated is that, okay, over a sustained period, you do certain spends and what is the outcome in terms of total revenues. So even for Just Dial, we, before this particular strategic transaction, we used to plan spending, say 7 to 8% of our top line towards advertising. So not that we could quantify that with that 65 crores of annual spends, what exactly worked, what exactly did not. But yes, overall in terms of branding, in terms of assistance to sales teams and overall traffic, that does help. So you keep juggling between various mediums, trying to see how you overall optimize it.
No, the reason I'm asking this question is that in the last quarter, if you spent 50 crores, one would have expected at least, some immediate benefit of that 50 crores coming in terms of increase in paid campaigns or realization for paid campaign. Both these have actually dropped this quarter. So, and I understand that, ad is a long-term, investment, but normally you see, results, at least in the near term, after such a big, ad spend. So that's the reason I'm trying to understand internally how you, measure the ad productivity. The next question is more to do with, the blueprint you have, post the Reliance Tech acquisition. When do you think you can come out with a more comprehensive, blueprint, for us investors? Because we are hearing you in terms of, various initiatives you're taking, across your various platforms, but, on a more integrated basis, so that there is, a clear understanding how this company would basically, evolve going forward. When do you think you're going to be, ready to sort of, outline that plan?
Okay, so just one more comment on the first remark that you made. See, this year's IPL was also, we have to remember, not in a very normalized scenario. I mean, since we had impact of COVID second wave, to the extent that the IPL had to be truncated and be done in 2 phases. So that also is something that we should keep in mind, which also is the reason that one should not be looking at it that, okay, in this particular quarter, X amount of rupees spent, what is the immediate gain in next quarter, and so on. On your second question in terms of time frame, I think in another about, say, 6 to 8 weeks is tentatively we should be able to firm up our plans and be able to openly communicate that what is the roadmap that we are taking forward, and then be able to also track progress on that particular roadmap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so we don't have anyone in queue. Would you like to add any closing comments now?
Yes, so thank you everyone for joining in. In case you have any further queries, please do reach out to us. We do our best to address. And you shall very shortly hear further details on our strategic roadmap ahead. So that's it from our side. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Nomura Financial Advisory and Securities,